Alright guys, today we're taking our first look into simplifying expressions that have exponents in them. Now we've done a little bit of this in terms of combining like terms, but we really haven't done a lot of exponent times exponent kind of stuff. So we have a few rules that we need to learn, and I will do my best to provide some explanations as well. That way it'll be a little bit easier for you to kind of keep track. Okay, our first rule is the rule for a product of two powers with equal bases. Okay, the rule reads like this: x to the a times x to the b. There's your product multiplication of two powers. X to the a and x to the b are two powers, and they have the same base of x. We should be able to rewrite that as x to the a plus b. A specific example of that would be this: x to the fourth times x to the 10th is equal to x to the 14th. You add the exponents when you're multiplying two powers with the same base. Now, easy explanation as for why that is. Well, let's think about what our specific example down here looks like. If I were to write out x to the fourth, that would just be 4x's. If I were to write out x to the 10th, it would be 10x's. I'm not going to write them all out. There'd be 10 of them. Okay, so that's going to be a total of 14x's, and they're all multiplied because x to the fourth, when I expand it, is multiplication, so is x to the 10th. So really, you're just adding those exponents because all you're really doing is counting how many x's you have there. So you're multiplying 4x's times 10x's. That means you have 14x's. Okay? Hopefully that makes sense. The power of a product. Okay? If you have x times y to the a power, you get x to the a times y to the a. Meaning you are allowed to distribute an exponent over multiplication. You are not allowed to distribute an exponent over addition. Okay, so again, here's a simple example. X to the fourth, oops, sorry. We just got to use x and y for right now. Got to wait for that next rule first. X times y to the fourth is equal to x to the fourth, y to the fourth. Again, let's just think about why this makes a whole lot of sense. X times y to the fourth means x times y times x times y times x times y 4 times. If we were to reorder that multiplication, which we're allowed to do because that's all multiplication, we could use commutative and associative properties to move those parentheses around. And to reorder our multiplication, we could rewrite it as x times y. And now we got x to the fourth, y to the fourth. Okay, so all of these rules are just little shortcut ways of showing us what we could probably have figured out completely on our own. Okay, the last rule is the power of a power rule. So it's what happens when you have a double exponent kind of situation. Okay, so that rule reads x to the a to the b power is equal to x to the a times b. A specific example would be x to the second to the fourth is equal to x to the 8th. You multiply exponents when you have a power to a power. Okay? Again, easy explanation. X squared to the fourth is just 4x squareds multiplied, right? And now we can go back to that original rule that we had, which is product of two powers. We got product of 4 powers, so we add up all the exponents and we get 8. Okay, again, if you forget one of these rules, a lot of times you can figure it out by hand by just kind of writing it out in a little bit more of an expanded form. Okay, let's get to some specific examples. Here's what I'm going to have you guys do. I'm going to have you guys try these specific examples on your own. None of them are particularly challenging. The last one does force you to apply 2 rules at once, but give it a try. See if you can figure these out, and then pause, come back, and I'll show you what the answers are. Okay, so for A, this is just a product of 2 powers with equal bases. We have 8x's times 20x's. That's a total of 28x's. It's x to the 28th. That's it. B, what you kind of have to remember is that, remember, you're allowed to reorder multiplication. So you can multiply the 5 times the 6 and get 30. And now it's just x to the 7th times x squared. Add your exponents, x to the 9th. C is a little bit of a tricky one. You are allowed to distribute this exponent, okay, because it's all multiplication on the inside. So we can distribute that exponent. We get 5 to the 3rd, x to the 3rd, y to the 7th to the 3rd. And I'm going to put that in parentheses just so it's clear. It's a double exponent. So I'm distributing the exponent to the 5, the x, and the y to the 7th. 5 to the 3rd I can now write as a number, and I should. It's 125. Nothing I can do with x to the 3rd. And now for the y to the 7th to the 3rd, I can apply my power of a power rule. I've got 7 y's 3 times. That's 21 y's. Multiply my exponents. Y to the 21st. Okay, these are just the basics of simplifying these expressions. We're going to learn a couple more rules in the next couple sections, and by the end of the chapter, you should be really good at simplifying expressions with exponents. So try some practice problems. Don't forget about those WSQs, and hopefully this was helpful.